The alarm screamed through the cargo ship's narrow corridors and dropped his wrench. Red lights flashed across the engine room walls as the entire vessel shuddered. He grabbed the wall to steady himself, his heart racing. "Engine failure," Captain's voice crackled through the comm system. "We're going down. There's a station nearby, preparing emergency dock." Cursed under his breath. 3 months into their supply run, and now this. He pulled himself along the corridor toward the bridge, his boots magnetic against the floor as gravity fluctuated. When he reached the command deck, he saw Captain gripping her chair, eyes fixed on the. Through the window, a massive structure loomed ahead. It wasn't like the human stations knew. This one was built from dark crystal and metal, shaped like a flower with 6 petals spreading into space. Blue lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that made his eyes hurt if he looked too long. "That's a station," said quietly. "We don't have a choice. We dock or we die." Had heard stories about the. Everyone had. They were an old empire, powerful and cold. Their people looked like living crystal sculptures, beautiful and dangerous. Humans and didn't mix well. Something about human body heat was toxic to them. Treaties existed, but both sides kept their distance. The ship shook again as they approached the docking bay. Through skill or luck, managed to guide them into an empty port. The clamps locked onto their hull with a heavy clang. "Stay sharp," ordered. "Fix what you can, but don't touch anything that's theirs. And for God's sake, don't get too close to any you see." Nodded and grabbed his repair kit. The station's docking level was cold, much colder than human stations. His breath came out in white clouds. The walls were smooth crystal that glowed from within, casting everything in shades of blue and purple. It was beautiful in a way that made him feel small. He was checking their external coupling when he noticed something strange. The entire station felt wrong. Too quiet. No workers, no movement, no sounds except the hum of distant machines. Emergency lights blinked in several corridors. His curiosity got the better of him. He followed a main corridor, telling himself he was just checking for damage to their ship's outer hull. The cold grew more intense as he walked deeper into the station. Ice crystals formed on his jacket. Then he heard it, a sound like breaking glass over and over, and beneath it a whisper that might have been breathing. He should have turned back. Every instinct told him to return to the ship, but something pulled him forward. The sound came from behind a large door marked with symbols he couldn't read. The door stood slightly open. Pushed it wider and stepped inside. The room was enormous, filled with medical equipment that looked like frozen waterfalls and crystal trees. In the center, on a platform that floated above the floor, lay a figure. She was, that much was clear. Her skin was translucent crystal, pale blue and white, with veins of light running through her body like captured lightning. She wore robes that seemed made of silk and starlight. Her face was beautiful but alien, with high cheekbones and large eyes that were currently closed. Her hair floated around her head, each strand like spun glass. But something was terribly wrong. Cracks spread across her crystalline skin. The lights inside her body were dimming, flickering like dying stars. Her whole form shook with violent tremors. She was dying. Didn't need to be a doctor to see that. He moved closer without thinking. "Hello, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slightly. They were silver like mirrors and filled with pain. She tried to speak, but only a crackling sound came out like ice breaking. His training as a field medic kicked in. He scanned the room for help for anyone, but they were alone. Where were her doctors, her guards? Why was she abandoned? Another tremor racked her body. More cracks appeared, spreading across her chest. The light inside her dimmed further. "Hold on," said. He didn't know if she understood human speech. "Someone will come, just hold on." But even as he said it, he knew she didn't have time. The light in her eyes was fading. He did the only thing he could think of. He reached out and took her hand. The moment his warm human skin touched her cold crystal form, she gasped. Her whole body went rigid. The trembling intensified, shaking so hard almost let go. But then he saw it. The cracks in her skin began to glow, not dimming, glowing. Bright white light spread from where his hand touched hers, racing along the fractures like water filling channels. The cracks didn't disappear, but they stopped spreading. They sealed from within, filled with light. Stared in shock. This shouldn't be possible. Human touch was supposed to hurt, not help them. The princess, because she had to be someone important in a room this grand, took a shuddering breath. The light inside her body brightened. Her trembling began to slow. "What are you?" she whispered in accented human speech, her silver eyes locked on his face. Before could answer, the door exploded inward. Guards in crystal armor poured into the room, weapons raised and glowing. Behind them came others in rich robes, their faces twisted in horror and rage. And in the center, a tall male wearing a crown of frozen light, his eyes wide with shock. "Human," one of the guards roared, "step away from Princess." But couldn't move. The princess's hand gripped his tightly. She looked up at the newcomers, her voice weak but clear. "Father," she said, he's helping me." The crowned figure, her father, the emperor, stared at them. At his daughter who had been dying moments ago, at the human holding her hand, at the impossible glow spreading through her body. "Impossible," the emperor whispered. One of the guards moved forward, weapon aimed at its chest. "Your Majesty, humans are toxic to our kind. He's killing her." "No," said firmly, her voice was stronger now. "Look at me, I'm healing." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the princess, at the sealed cracks glowing with light, at her brightening eyes, at the human and the hands clasped together and the soft glow that surrounded them both. The emperor took a slow step forward, his expression unreadable. "Who are you, human, and what have you done to my daughter?" Swallowed hard, his whole body shook, but he didn't let go of his hand. "My name is, and I don't know what I did, I just tried to help." The emperor's eyes narrowed. Then he looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. Hope, maybe, or fear. "Someone call doctor," he commanded. "Now, and you human, don't move, don't even breathe wrong. If my daughter dies, you die with her." His grip on his hand tightened. "I'm not going to die," she said softly. "Not anymore." Had been standing in the same position for 3 hours. His legs ached and his arm was numb, but he didn't dare move. Guards surrounded him in a circle, their weapons still raised and glowing. Princess had fallen into a deep sleep, her hand still holding his. The emperor sat on a crystalline chair nearby, watching them with unreadable eyes. The medical team had arrived an hour ago. Doctor was an older woman with silver-streaked crystal skin and sharp, intelligent eyes. She had been scanning both and the princess continuously, muttering to herself in the language. Finally she turned to the emperor. "Your Majesty, this is unprecedented." "Explain," the emperor said. His voice was cold but controlled. "The princess was poisoned with void toxin," doctor said. "It's a crystalline poison that disrupts our internal light matrix. There is no known cure. She should be dead." "But she's not," a younger male said from the doorway. He was tall and imposing, wearing military armor. His crystal skin was darker than almost navy blue. This had to be her brother, could see the family resemblance. "No, Prince On, she is not dead," doctor agreed. "And according to my scans, the poison is breaking down. Her light matrix is repairing itself at a rate I've never seen. The catalyst appears to be." She gestured at him. All eyes turned too. He tried not to swallow nervously. "How is that possible?" On demanded. "Humans are toxic to us. Their body heat disrupts our crystalline structure. Contact with them causes pain, sometimes death. This must be a trick." "It's not a trick," doctor said. She held up a device showing complex readings. "I've detected a unique energy signature emanating from the human. It's bioelectric in nature, but operating on a frequency I've never encountered. When it interacts with the princess's light matrix, it creates a resonance effect. In simple terms, Doctor, the Emperor said quietly. Doctor took a breath. The human's energy is healing her. I don't understand how or why, but it's undeniable. If he releases her hand, the effect stops. Her condition stabilizes but doesn't improve. When he maintains contact, she continues to heal. The room fell silent. On looked like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. The Emperor stared at his daughter's peaceful face. There must be something in our archives, the Emperor said finally. Some record of this. I've already sent researchers to the Imperial Library, a new voice said. An elegant older woman entered the room, her robes marking her as nobility. I am Lady Ara, keeper of Imperial history. If answers exist, we'll find them. His legs were shaking now. He was exhausted, hungry, and terrified. Excuse me, he said quietly. Everyone looked at him. I want to help, I really do, but I need to sit down and maybe some water. The Emperor considered this. Can he move without harming her, Doctor? Doctor nodded. As long as he maintains skin contact, the effect doesn't require stillness. The Emperor waved his hand. Guards brought a chair and placed it beside the floating platform. Carefully sat down, adjusting his grip on his hand. Someone brought him water, cold enough to hurt his teeth, but he drank it gratefully. Now, the Emperor said, leaning forward, tell me everything. Why are you here? Why did you enter this room? Who sent you? Explained about the engine failure, the emergency docking, and his accidental discovery of. The Emperor listened without interruption, his expression unreadable. You expect me to believe this was coincidence, On said harshly. That a human just happened to find my sister at the exact moment she was dying. I know how it sounds, said, but it's true. I didn't even know anyone was in here. I heard sounds and came to investigate. When I saw her suffering, I just reacted. Foolishly, On said, you could have killed her with your touch. But he didn't, Doctor said firmly. He saved her life. We must acknowledge that reality prints on, regardless of our preconceptions about humans. On's crystal skin darkened with anger, but he said nothing more. The Emperor stood and walked to the viewing window. Outside, space stretched endlessly, stars scattered like diamonds. My daughter was poisoned by someone who wanted her dead. Someone who knew void toxin would be untraceable and incurable. This human's arrival seems too convenient to be mere chance. His blood ran cold. You think I poisoned her? No, the Emperor said, turning back. If you had, you wouldn't have touched her. You wouldn't have risked exposure. But perhaps whoever poisoned her knew about this healing effect. Perhaps they wanted to force us into contact with humans to create an incident. That's insane, said. Is it? The Emperor's eyes were hard. My daughter's death would have sparked outrage against humanity. Many in my empire already distrust humans, but this, a human healing a princess, this is equally provocative. Either outcome would create chaos. Before anyone could respond, Lady Ara rushed back into the room, carrying an ancient-looking data crystal. Your Majesty, I found something. It's fragmentary from the oldest archives, but... She activated the crystal. Holographic text appeared in the air, written in ancient script. Doctor read it aloud, translating to human speech as she went. Beware the warm ones, for their touch brings dissolution and death. But in the oldest songs before the long cold, there is mention of the warm ones who mend broken light. Two peoples, once one, divided by the stars. When the cold ones and the warm ones meet again, the broken shall be made whole. Silence filled the room. That's impossible, On whispered. Humans and share a common origin. That's never been suggested. It's a myth, Doctor said, but her voice was uncertain. A legend from before our recorded history. Legends often contain truth, Lady Ara said. What if our peoples were once connected? What if we evolved from the same species but diverged millions of years ago? Humans on warm planets in cold space. That would explain the resonance effect, Doctor said slowly. She looked at her scans again. If our bioelectric signatures were once compatible, even complementary, then genetic memory might. This is speculation, but theoretically possible. The Emperor turned to look at and his sleeping daughter. If this is true, it changes everything. A soft sound made everyone freeze, was waking up. Her silver eyes opened slowly, clearer and brighter than before. She looked around at the assembled crowd, then down at her hand clasped in's. "Father," she said, her voice steady. The Emperor said, emotion cracking his controlled voice. He moved to her side. "How do you feel?" "Better," she said. "Stronger, the pain is gone." She looked at, "You stayed." "I couldn't leave," said honestly. "You were holding on pretty tight." A small smile crossed her alien features. "I remember you coming in. I remember thinking I was hallucinating because humans shouldn't be able to touch us. But your hand was warm and the warmth didn't hurt. It felt like coming home after being lost." "Princess," Doctor said gently, "do you remember who poisoned you?" His expression darkened. "I was at a diplomatic function. Admiral X offered me a drink. After that, everything became pain." On's entire body went rigid. "Admiral X, are you certain?" "I think so," said. "Everything is hazy, but I remember his face. Why would he?" "X has been vocal about his opposition to peace initiatives with human space," the Emperor said grimly. "If he's capable of poisoning my daughter, what else might he plan?" "Your Majesty," one of the guards said from the doorway. "Captain of the human vessel is demanding to see her crew member. She's threatening to contact human authorities." The Emperor sighed. "Let her in. This situation is complicated enough without adding interspecies incidents." Captain entered like a storm, right behind her. Eyes went wide when he saw holding hands with the alien princess. "What the hell is going on?" demanded. Gave her a weak smile. "It's a really long story, Captain." 2 weeks had passed since that first chaotic day. Had learned more about culture, biology, and politics than he'd ever imagined he would. He'd also learned that Princess had a sharp sense of humor and loved hearing about Earth's oceans, which fascinated her. They sat together now in a private garden within the station. It was a strange place. Trees made of crystal grew from the floor, their branches spreading out like frozen lightning. Bioluminescent plants created pools of soft light. It was cold, always cold, but had gotten better clothing from the human embassy that had arrived 3 days ago. No longer needed constant contact with him to stay healthy. The daily sessions with had strengthened her light matrix beyond what it had been before the poisoning, but doctor recommended they continue meeting for observation. "You don't have to stay if you don't want to," said. She sat on a bench made of smooth stone, her crystalline skin glowing in the garden's light. "I know this must be tedious for you." "It's not tedious," said honestly. He sat beside her, close but not touching. They'd learned that proximity helped, even without direct contact. "It's just strange. A month ago, I was a mechanic on a cargo ship. Now I'm part of the biggest scientific discovery in two species' histories." Smiled. "How does that feel?" "Terrifying," admitted. "Your brother still looks at me like he's deciding which wall to throw me against." "On is protective," said, "but he's coming around. He visited Doctor's lab yesterday to review the research data himself. That's a good sign." The research had been progressing rapidly. One, a human from Earth, had arrived on the station with a team of specialists. Working alongside scientists, they'd made remarkable discoveries. The genetic analysis confirmed what the ancient texts suggested: humans and shared a common ancestor. Millions of years ago, a spacefaring species had spread across the galaxy. Some settled on cold, dark worlds and space stations, evolving into the crystalline. Others settled on warm, light-filled planets and became humans. "It's like finding family you didn't know you had," said softly. "Distant family, changed by time, but family nonetheless." "Some family reunion," said. We almost went to war before we figured this out. We still might, said, her tone darkening. Admiral X is missing. He fled before guards could arrest him, and intelligence reports suggest he's not working alone. This was the shadow hanging over everything. The Admiral had tried to kill to prevent peace between humans, and, when that failed, he disappeared. Rumors spoke of a faction within the military that wanted war, that saw humans as a threat to be eliminated. Lady Ara wants to show us something, said, changing the subject. She's found more ancient records. Will you come? They walked together through the station's corridors. Citizens stopped and stared. Word had spread about the human who could heal their princess. Some looked curious, others hostile, but none interfered. Lady Ara's archive was a massive chamber filled with data crystals and holographic displays. The elderly woman looked up from her work as they entered, her eyes bright with excitement. "Princess, thank you for coming," she said. "I've made a breakthrough. Look at this." She activated a holographic projection. It showed a star map, but one from millions of years in the past. A single species territory was marked in gold, spanning hundreds of systems. This was the Forerunner civilization, Lady Ara explained. Our common ancestors. They were masters of bioengineering and space travel, but something happened, a great catastrophe. Their empire fractured. The map shifted, showing the civilization splitting into two groups. One moved toward the galactic core, seeking cold, dark places. The other spread toward the rim, colonizing warm worlds orbiting bright stars. They didn't just separate geographically, Lady Ara continued. They engineered themselves. The Cold Seekers modified their biology to survive in extreme conditions, becoming crystalline and light-based. The Warm Seekers adapted to planetary life, developing dense organic structures and high thermal regulation. Us and them, whispered. Yes, Lady Ara said, but here's what's fascinating. The Forerunners designed this separation to be temporary. Look at these records. New text appeared. Doctor had joined them and read aloud. The division is necessary for adaptation, but reunion is inevitable. The cold light and the warm darkness need each other to be complete. When they meet again, the resonance will signal the end of exile. What does that mean? Asked. I believe, Doctor said carefully, that the Forerunners expected their descendants to eventually reconnect. Your healing effect, it's not an accident. It's designed into your genes and ours. We're meant to help each other. One entered the archive at that moment, carrying data pads and looking excited. I've confirmed it, she said in human speech. The bioelectric resonance pattern is inherited. Not all humans will have it, and not all will respond, but the compatibility exists across both populations. We estimate maybe 15% of each species carries the full sequence. 15%, said. That's millions of individuals. Exactly, one said. This isn't just about you two. This is about our entire species. If we work together, the medical applications alone could revolutionize healthcare for both our peoples. Which is exactly why some want to prevent it, a deep voice said from the doorway. Prince On stood there, his armor gleaming. His expression was serious but no longer hostile. I've been reviewing intelligence reports. X isn't just running, he's organizing. We've intercepted communications suggesting he's coordinating within human space as well. Humans who want war felt sick. There are factions on both sides who profit from conflict, On said. Military contractors, politicians who gain power through fear, extremists who hate anything different. If news of our genetic compatibility becomes public, it undermines their entire narrative. Then we don't make it public yet, said. Too late, one said grimly. Some of our research was leaked 3 days ago. News networks across human space are already reporting it. It'll reach channels within hours. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The Emperor's voice came over the communication system, strained and urgent. All personnel to emergency stations. We have detected multiple ships approaching at high speed. They are not responding to hails. Prepare for possible hostile action. On's face hardened. It's X, he's making his move. They rushed to the command center. The Emperor stood before a massive showing space around the station. A fleet of ships approached, a mix of military vessels and human mercenary craft. They're broadcasting on all channels, a communications officer said. They claim the station has been contaminated by human influence. They're demanding we surrender the princess and all humans for processing. Processing means execution, On said flatly. Father, we need to fight. If we fight, we start the war they want, the Emperor said. But if we surrender, my daughter dies and our peoples never reconcile. Felt's hand slipped into his. The touch sent the now familiar warmth through both of them, the resonance effect. Around the room, people stared. There's another option, said loudly. We show them the truth. We broadcast proof of what we've discovered. We show them that this isn't contamination, it's reunion. We're not enemies, we're family. They'll call it propaganda, On said. Maybe, said, but people aren't stupid. If we show them the science, the genetic evidence, the ancient records, some will believe. Enough might believe to make a difference. The Emperor looked at them, his daughter and the human, hands clasped, glowing with shared light. He looked at the research data displayed around the room. He looked at the approaching fleet. Prepare a transmission, he said finally. Broadcast on all frequencies to every ship, every station, every world. It's time the galaxy knew the truth, all of it. Lady Ara, doctor, and one worked frantically to compile the evidence, and stood before the cameras, their joined hands visible to all. People of the Empire and human space, began, her voice steady. What you are about to see will challenge everything you believe about our peoples, but we ask you to watch, to listen, and to decide for yourselves. We are not enemies. We never were. The transmission began to broadcast as the hostile fleet drew closer. The transmission went out across the galaxy, but the hostile fleet didn't slow down. Dozens of ships continued their approach, weapons charging. Could see the energy signatures building even from the command center. They're not listening, On said grimly. They don't care about the truth. Some are, the communications officer reported. We're receiving transmissions from 3 of the cruisers. They're requesting clarification, and one of the human vessels just broke formation. Put them through, the Emperor ordered. A captain appeared on screen, his crystalline features troubled. Your Majesty, my crew has seen the broadcast. We require time to verify these claims. This is too important to ignore without investigation. Then stand down, Captain, the Emperor said. You have my word that all data will be made available for independent review. The captain hesitated, then nodded. We are withdrawing from the attack formation, but Admiral X still commands the majority of the fleet. As the captain's image faded, another transmission forced its way through. Admiral X appeared. His dark blue crystalline skin was almost black, and his eyes burned with fanatical intensity. Lies, he shouted. The Emperor has been compromised by human manipulation. This research is fabricated to make us weak. Humans are parasites and the princess has been infected. We will cleanse this station and restore the purity of the Empire. X, you poisoned my daughter, the Emperor said, his voice cold with rage. You would murder an imperial princess to start a war. You are the parasite. I tried to save her from this. X gestured wildly at something off-screen. Better a clean death than this corruption, but you forced my hand. If I cannot save the Empire through mercy, I will save it through fire. The transmission cut off. Immediately, the fleet's weapons fired. Shields on shouted. The station's defensive barriers flared to life, but the combined firepower of the attacking fleet was immense. The whole structure shook. Crystal walls cracked. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Return fire, the Emperor commanded. Had never been in a battle before. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers coordinated defenses and weapons. Beside him, his hand tightened on his. "I can feel your fear," she said quietly. Realized it was true. The resonance between them had grown stronger over the past weeks. He could sense her emotions too, determination mixed with sorrow. She didn't want this fight. "We need to do something," he said. "We can't just stand here." "What can we do?" asked. "We're not soldiers." But then felt it, a strange pulling sensation. The resonance wasn't just connecting him to any more. He could feel other presences, faint but there. He looked around the command center and saw them. A technician standing near one, their hands almost touching. A guard positioned beside, who'd been brought to the command center for safety. Small points of contact, human and working side by side in the crisis. One called out, "The resonance effect, can it be amplified?" The scientist looked up from her station. Theoretically, yes. If multiple compatible pairs were in close proximity, their combined bioelectric fields might create a larger resonance pattern. Why? "Because I think I can feel it happening already," said. "Small connections all over the station. What if we could boost those? Make them strong enough that everyone can feel them?" Doctor's eyes widened. "That's brilliant. If we could make the resonance visible, undeniable, it would be proof more powerful than any data transmission." "How do we do it?" the Emperor demanded, even as another barrage shook the station. "We need all compatible humans and in the same location," one said, working frantically at her console. "And we need to amplify their bioelectric fields. The station's crystal structure could act as a conductor if we, yes, the central meditation chamber. It's designed to focus and amplify energy. We could use it." "Do it," the Emperor ordered, "on bias time." "With pleasure," the prince said, moving to the weapons station, and ran through shaking corridors with one and Doctor. They sent out calls for all humans and to gather at the central chamber. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people came, drawn by curiosity or hope or desperation. The meditation chamber was a vast dome of crystal, its walls faceted like a diamond. At its center was an open space where energy naturally concentrated. One and Doctor worked together to reconfigure the chamber's systems, turning it from a meditation aid into an amplifier. "Everyone please form pairs," Doctor called out. "One human, one. Physical contact is necessary, don't be afraid." There was hesitation. Years of conditioning made both species wary, but then stepped forward and offered his hand to a young engineer. She took it nervously, then gasped as the resonance sparked between them. "It's real," she whispered. "I can feel it. It's like finding a part of myself I didn't know was missing." Others followed. One by one, humans and joined hands. The chamber began to glow. Each pair created a small point of light, their combined bioelectric fields resonating in harmony, and took their place at the center. As the designated focus, their connection was the strongest. When they joined hands, the light intensified dramatically. "It's working," one said, monitoring her instruments. "The resonance is amplifying exponentially. It's beautiful." Outside, the battle continued. On fought with skill and determination, but the enemy fleet was too large. The station's shields were failing. Then the light from the chamber began to spread. It flowed through the crystal walls like water, racing along every corridor, every room, every external surface. The entire station began to glow with a brilliant white-gold light. Ships from both sides stopped firing, their crews staring at the impossible sight. The light wasn't just visible, it was palpable. Even through ship hulls and vacuum, people could feel it. A warmth that didn't burn, a connection that explanation. On X's flagship, crew members looked at each other in confusion. Some started to cry. Others fell to their knees. The resonance was reaching them, showing them something they'd never known. Humans and weren't meant to be enemies. They were meant to complete each other. No, X screamed. It's a trick, don't listen. But his crew wasn't listening to him anymore. One by one, they stepped away from their stations. The other ships in his fleet began to power down weapons. In the meditation chamber could feel it all. Through the resonance, he was connected to hundreds, then thousands of people. He felt their shock, their wonder, their dawning understanding. It was overwhelming, but's presence anchored him. "Stay with me," she said. "Don't get lost in it." "I won't," he promised. But then something shifted. A new presence forced its way into the resonance, dark, angry, and powerful. X. The Admiral had some ability that let him touch the resonance field, and he was using it to attack. Felt pain lance through his mind. Beside him cried out. The light flickered. "He's trying to disrupt it," Doctor shouted. X's voice echoed through the resonance, somehow audible to everyone connected. "I will not let you destroy everything our ancestors built. Humans are the enemy. This weakness will doom us all." Wanted to fight back, but he didn't know how. This wasn't his world, his way of existing. But then he felt thoughts merge with his. "Together," she said, and he understood. They didn't fight X's anger with anger. Instead, they opened the resonance wider. They showed him everything, the ancient records, the genetic proof, the memory written in both species' DNA. They showed him the Forerunner's plan, the deliberate separation and the intended reunion. More than that, they showed him what the reunion could mean. Medical advances that would save millions. Cultural exchange that would enrich both civilizations. An end to the loneliness that had haunted both species for eons. X resisted, but the truth was undeniable. His presence in the resonance faltered, weakened by the weight of evidence. "You're wrong," said gently through the connection. "This isn't weakness, it's completion." The Admiral's rage crumbled. Felt him withdraw from the resonance, defeated but not destroyed. They saw his flagship turn away, retreating into deep space. The rest of the fleet didn't follow. They remained, weapons powered down, their crews overwhelmed by what they'd experienced. The Emperor's voice came over the communication system, broadcasted to every ship. "This is Emperor. I hereby declare an immediate ceasefire. What we have witnessed today changes everything. I invite representatives from all ships, human and alike, to come aboard this station. Let us talk as family should, with openness and hope." In the meditation chamber, the pairs slowly released their hands. The light faded but didn't disappear entirely. It had left its mark on everyone who'd felt it. Sagged with exhaustion, caught him, supporting his weight despite being just as tired. "We did it," she said. "We survived," corrected. "But this is just the beginning, isn't it?" She smiled, tired but genuine. "Yes, the hardest part starts now, building peace." 1 year later, stood in the observation deck of Research Station Unity and marveled at how much had changed. The station hung in neutral space between human and territories, a joint construction that housed the largest cooperative research facility in the galaxy. Through the massive crystal windows, he could see both in the distance, Earth as a blue marble to one side, and the capital world as a glittering ice sphere to the other. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. "You look thoughtful," said, joining him at the window. She wore a modified environmental suit that kept her comfortable in the warmer temperatures humans needed. After a year of exposure to human environments, her crystalline body had adapted remarkably well. "Just thinking about how different things are," said. "A year ago, I was fixing cargo ship engines. Now I'm deputy director of research. And I was a princess focused on diplomatic ceremonies," said. "Now I'm ambassador of the shared stars, mediating disputes between two civilizations learning to be one family." They'd both been thrust into roles neither had imagined, but they'd learned to handle it, supported by people who believed in the dream of unity. Behind them, the observation deck's doors opened. One entered with Doctor, both carrying data pads and talking animatedly. Their friendship had become legendary. The human scientist and the doctor who'd co-authored 17 groundbreaking papers on resonance biology. "There you are," one said. "We've got the latest results from the medical trials. You need to see this." They moved to a nearby table where one displayed the data. Holographic charts showed success rates that made his heart race. "The resonance therapy has a 92% success rate in treating crystalline degradation in," Doctor explained, her voice filled with excitement. "And for humans, it's showing promise in treating neurological conditions we thought were incurable." "That's incredible," breathed. "It gets better," one said. "We're also seeing psychological benefits. Humans and working together in resonance pairs report decreased anxiety, improved cognitive function, and enhanced emotional stability. It's like our species literally make each other healthier." "The forerunners designed it that way," Doctor said. "The more we study the genetic legacy, the clearer it becomes. Separation was meant to be temporary. We need each other." Thought about the hundreds of resonance pairs now working across dozens of facilities. Medical teams, research groups, engineering crews, all mixed human and all benefiting from the cooperation. "What about the political situation?" he asked. "Any news from the summit?" His expression became more serious. "My father and the Human Council are close to finalizing the Resonance Accord. It will officially establish the alliance and create frameworks for shared governance, combined military defense, and cultural exchange." "X and his followers won't like that," said. "No," agreed, "but they're a minority now. The admiral went into exile with maybe 100 ships, out of thousands. Most have accepted the truth. Some enthusiastically, others reluctantly, but they've accepted it." "Same with humans," one added. "There are still separatist groups, but they're losing support every day. It's hard to argue against unity when people can literally feel the connection." The station's communication system chimed. "Ambassador, Director, please report to the main assembly hall. The ceremony is beginning." They made their way through corridors bustling with activity. Humans and moved past each other naturally now, no longer nervous about proximity. Some even walked hand in hand, resonance pairs who'd become friends or more. The assembly hall was packed. Representatives from both civilizations filled the seats, all facing a central platform. Emperor stood there alongside President of the Human Coalition. Behind them, a massive display showed both species' symbols intertwined, and took their places of honor near the front. Prince On sat nearby, now commander of the Joint Human Defense Force. He nodded respectfully at their relationship had evolved from hostility to genuine friendship. Captain and sat together in the human section. Had been promoted to oversee civilian transport between the territories. Had found his calling working alongside engineers, developing hybrid ship designs. Lady Ara and her team of historians sat in a special section, still uncovering more secrets from the Forerunner archives. Every discovery reinforced the truth. This reunion was ancient destiny being fulfilled. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. The hall quieted immediately. "1 year ago," he began, "my daughter lay dying from poison meant to prevent this moment. 1 year ago, a human engineer's act of compassion changed the course of history. Today, we gather not as two separate peoples, but as one family rediscovering itself." President stepped forward. "The Resonance Accord represents more than political alliance. It represents acknowledgement of a truth written in our very genes. Humans and are meant to stand together. Apart, we are incomplete. United, we are whole." Together, they activated a ceremonial crystal, half grown from materials, half forged from human metals. When it powered on, it glowed with the same light and had first created in the meditation chamber. "Let this light remind us," the Emperor said. "We are children of the same ancient people. We are family." The hall erupted in cheers, human voices mixing with the crystalline chimes of celebration. After the ceremony, and escaped to the observation deck again, seeking a moment of quiet. They stood side by side, watching construction crews work on expanding the station. Mixed human teams welded crystal and metal together, building something neither species could create alone. "Do you ever think about that first day?" asked, "when you found me dying?" "All the time," said. "I was so scared, I had no idea what I was doing." "You saved my life," said. "But more than that, you gave both our peoples a future. If you hadn't acted that day, someone else would have," said. "Maybe not then, maybe not us, but eventually. This was always going to happen. The resonance was waiting for us to find it." Took his hand. The familiar warmth spread between them, comfortable now instead of startling. "I'm glad it was us, though. I'm glad it was you." Through the resonance, felt her genuine affection. Over the past year, their connection had deepened beyond the merely biological. They'd become true friends, partners in building the new world. "What do you think the Forerunners would say if they could see us now?" he asked. "I think," said thoughtfully, "they'd say it's about time we figured it out." They stood in comfortable silence, watching both their shine in the distance. Around them, the station hummed with life, hundreds of humans and working, learning and living together. Footsteps approached. Un joined them at the window, his armor replaced by more casual attire. "Brother," greeted him warmly. "Sister," Un nodded to them both. "I wanted to thank you. When this all started, I thought humans were the enemy. I was ready to fight to keep them away from our empire. You showed me I was wrong." "We were all wrong," said. "Both sides. We let fear blind us to the truth. The question now is whether we can stay united," On said. "X is still out there. There are extremists on both sides who want to tear this apart. Unity is harder to maintain than conflict." "True," said, "but we have something they don't. We have proof. We have the resonance. Every day more people feel the connection. That's harder to deny than any propaganda." "I hope you're right," On said. "The Joint Defense Force is ready to protect this alliance. But the real defense is what you two represent, proof that cooperation works." He left them then, returning to his duties. Watched him go, thinking about how much everyone had changed. "He's right, you know," said. "We do represent something, not because we're special, but because we were first. We're the example everyone looks to." "No pressure," said dryly. Laughed, a sound like wind chimes that still made smile. "We'll be fine. We've faced assassins, fleet battles, and political summits. We can handle being role models." "Together," said. "Always together," agreed. They stood watching as a new ship approached the station, another vessel full of humans and coming to join the grand experiment. The station would keep growing, the cooperation would keep expanding, and the resonance would keep spreading. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks and struggles. Some would resist change until the end. But the momentum was unstoppable now. Two species rediscovering they were meant to be one. Squeezed hand gently, feeling the resonance pulse between them. In that touch was everything. The past they'd uncovered, the present they'd built, and the future they'd create together. "Do you know what I realized?" he said. "When I walked into that medical chamber and found you dying, I thought I was just trying to help one person. I didn't know I was helping heal the galaxy." "Maybe that's how all great changes start," said. "One person reaching out to another. One act of kindness that ripples outward. You didn't save just me that day. You saved us all." Through the observation window, Earth and gleamed like paired jewels. Between them, research station Unity grew larger, a bridge spanning the void. And throughout the station, throughout both empires, the resonance continued to spread. Human warmth meeting light, two halves of a broken whole finally becoming complete. The exile was over, the family had come home. And in that reunion, both species found something they'd been missing for millions of years, the other half of themselves.